The Congress of South African Trade Union, that's Cosatu, has held its three-day Central Executive Committee meeting in Johannesburg, where it debated a range of issues. Matters discussed include the NHI, retrenchments, the Employment Equity Report, prescribed assets, and of course, the real talking point, the draft economic paper by Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. Cosatu President Zingiswa Losi is here to shed a little bit more light on these issues. It's so nice to see you. Welcome.
Morning, Leah.
So let's start off with this paper that's come through. We're talking about the Finance Minister who brought out this recovery plan, but you, as Cosatu, you're saying that there are many issues with this that you just don't agree with, and you're questioning what happened here. Talk to us about it.
Indeed. The first thing is the process. Ordinarily, this should have also been a discussion in the ETC, a subcommittee of the ANC on economic transformation. It was not discussed. Secondly, the cabinet should have also looked into the document, spoken into the document. NEDLEC is another process. Those processes were not followed. So Treasury decided to go there, even if he may have made some consultation with the minister. Because I remember Minister Mantashe last night was raising this issue that as they were still busy with this paper, this policy draft, Treasury went away with it. It was supposed to go back to cabinet. All of a sudden, it's finding itself in the public space. NEDLEC, it has not gone through NEDLEC. And these are the processes that you can't fault when you are bringing policy documents for discussion. Secondly, on substantive issues, we looked into the document in the CSC and we have realized few things that, for an example, that we can pick up, which we have already won as the gains workers in this country. For an example, the issue of the national minimum wage, which was just promulgated on the 1st of January this year, supposed to be covering over 6 million workers who will be beneficiaries of this. I can tell you now, Leanne, you go to the CCMA, you will find that these workers that are expected to be beneficiaries are not receiving this minimum wage because employers are not complying. This document suggests that there will be exemption for small, medium enterprises without following the processes at NEDLEC. Because you can't outside NEDLEC processes when we already have a legislated national minimum wage that clearly defines how you are going to go into the process of exemption. And you have a minister that comes with a paper that says these must be exempted. It's like a blanket exemptions. It undermines the processes that even Treasury was part of at the level of NEDLEC. It also goes and attacks the collective bargaining council. We fought so hard as workers in this country, particularly Cosatu, against Free Market Foundation. We won that case. Now it's being undermined through this by exempting small businesses on bargaining council. There are processes that must be followed that would have to deal with those matters. But this paper is trying to undo what we have already won. And if I were to pick just one issue again, it is the paper intends to talk about the auctioning of the coal plants.
Yes, yes.
We don't think that's a good move, okay? Because you are talking about auctioning. We have a crisis of electricity in this country already. Okay, and it encroaches into other departments in government without allowing those departments to have had a bite about how they think that this economic recovery should work in relation to their own departments. You are closing coal plants. What are you bringing? Okay, we're talking about here a just transition process which must take place when you move from coal to clean energy. We're talking about mixed energy in this country. We have coal here, that is our natural resource, which has a long life. We have over 300 years still of coal. Can't we be thinking about other areas of cleaning coal and still use it? What about the coal, the communities that are within the mining, the coal mining industries? What is the future of those workers? What is the future of those communities? Had the minister and his team really thought about the most exploited, the poorest of the poor in this country when they were looking and thinking about these strategies? Or in them, it was about the rating agencies, it was about big businesses, foreign direct investment, and nothing about necessary South Africans and the real material conditions that are prevailing on the ground.
You know, the thing is that I imagine that the finance minister is sort of caught between these two, because sometimes they don't see eye to eye. And I know that Cosatu have accused him of having a right-wing agenda, and also saying that he's acting like a prime minister. I think you said that. He's acting like a prime minister in the absence of Cyril Ramaphosa, the president, who you believe probably doesn't even know about this plan that was released, about this white paper. So have you spoken to the finance minister? I mean, he's obviously heard your views, but have you physically actually seen him face to face or spoken to him about your reaction to this?
We just saw the paper 2 days ago.
At the same time,
at the
we
same
all
time
saw
as
it.
everyone else.
So that was the first time you saw it?
It was the first time we saw it. And on the last day of the CEC, it was when we saw the paper, and we had to force this discussion, even though we have passed socio-economic discussions, but we had to look into the paper. So at what point are we going to have a chance to meet with Tito? But what we did was to check with the ANC in terms of the ETC.
Yeah.
We spoke with comrades that are heading the Enoch Godongwana. They had no opportunity even themselves to look into this document and give a breather onto it. So we are really saying, Cosatu has always said, Leanne, we don't want to be personal. We really don't want. Our issues cannot be located to an individual. But we can't allow individuals to think that they are super ministers and think that they are going to run amok and do as they wish and think that they are the brains behind all of us in this country in terms of what is the best interest of South Africa. We are not shying away from engaging into a discussion. Cosatu has never, but was saying, do not undermine the processes that we have fought so hard for, that are going to give a meaningful discussions onto this white paper. Respect those processes, because in some instances, you will recall, there are papers that had to be brought back after the president had signed off into those. And we said, it never went to NETLEC. We cannot, when we have institutions in this country that are democratic, that are formed on the democratic basis, and you have people that think that in terms of their own thinking, it is not necessary. This is not the first white paper we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Why is this one taking a different route from the rest of others?
Well, that's something we're going to even take further with the Auditor General, so we'll talk more about this paper afterwards, but it was important to get Cosatu's reaction to it. A couple more things I want to discuss with you, and the next one is your organization's position on the issue of prescribed assets, because that a lot of people seem to be very, very worried about. The Parliament and President seem to suggest that government has Cosatu's buy-in on this. And we've spoken quite a bit about that this week on the show, talking to pension funds, going in and investing. And one analyst in particular we had said, do not do that. You cannot put money in failing entities like Eskom. That's playing with people's pension and their future. So Cosatu, give us your perception on it.
We're talking about an investment, Leanne. We're not talking about a bailout. We're saying invest. So when you invest, there's something that workers are going to get back from it, okay? These pension funds, we've raised this issue before. Workers' pension funds in the PIC and the UIF were used to bail out Edcon. This is a private company, okay? To save 140,000 jobs. When it was bailing out Edcon, the very same people that are sitting at the PIC did not make such a national noise about it. Now, we're talking about saving Eskom. What is the choice that we have in this country? Do we have a choice to allow Eskom to fail, and all of us are doomed because the economy is going to come to a standstill? Or do we want to save Eskom and allow the IMF to come through? Then the IMF having control and telling us now what to do, where to invest, what to sell, how to run our country. We have had examples in Africa. Why can't we bring solutions of South Africa by ourselves for a change and not rely on the IMF? You see, the consequences are dire. And here we're saying you don't have to do it without putting processes in place. You have to reinforce it. Of course, there are no workers that are prepared to put their money there only to be told that your money has gone into a deep hole. But also, Leanne, we want to raise this issue and say, you don't save ESCOM. What are the consequences? Yeah. Workers at ESCOM are going to lose their jobs. The UIF that also is used to bail out and to save other jobs. Less workers now are going to be making a contribution because more workers are going to be retrenched. Secondly, those workers, when they get retrenched at ESCOM, they go and withdraw their benefits in the UIF. So the kitty at the UIF gets even a little. Thirdly, when those workers are sitting at home, they are no longer contributing to the revenue base of this country through taxes. It means the public servants and the public service that must be given to all of us becomes affected, because where government derive the public wages is through taxes that we're paying. So everybody else becomes affected. So you have to save ESCOM. And that's why Cosatu says we support the use of the prescribed assets, but we are happy that workers are represented now in the PIC board. So nothing is going to go ahead without workers scrutinizing even the conditions of those investments, because workers' returns must be achieved. Yeah. But importantly, it is about doing what is good for this country by ourselves. It is time that we put solutions that are going to work for this country. But importantly, it is not to put workers on the worst situation as we move forward. You are not going to build the economy with more people relying on social grants and less people working. It is something that it is not going to work. So saving ESCOM is a choice that we can't be dilly-dallying about it. We have to do it. All right. Well, let's leave that issue there. We've got your views on it. But I want to ask you another issue very quickly. Is the CEC committed to hold those who are involved in the Marikana killings to account? So let's talk to Marikana. Saying that the case must be reinvestigated and that people must be held to account. I also read yesterday that you're also asking President Cyril Ramaphosa, you're wanting to do a rally there in Marikana, and you're hoping that he will attend this. That in previous years, the ANC, it's been a no-go zone for them. And now you're wanting to open this up, open the investigation, hold people accountable. 7 years ago this happened. Why now? Leanne, workers continue to be killed in Marikana. Perhaps it is because they get killed, particularly NUM members here, we're being specific. They get shot at every day. Those that lose their lives, they go to the Eastern Cape, they get to be buried, come back, it's business as usual. There's a relationship that we want it to be investigated between AMCU and Loan Min management, because workers there belonging to NUM have said there are almost 800 stop orders that are seated with Loan Min management, HR, not being processed, of workers that are resigning from AMCU to join NUM. What has happened, according to them, is that those that resign from AMCU to join NUM, when their stop orders are not processed, the names of those get to be a hit list, and those workers are shot at. Recently, there's a worker who was shot at 10 o'clock in the morning in front of his 2 children and a wife, because he is a member of NUM. There's a camp there that is called Camp Number 1. We're told it is a no-go area. You can't wear an NUM t-shirt. Old men who have long belonged to NUM are being intimidated by so-called AMCU members, allegedly, who would come and disrupt their own sitting there and threaten them. Guns are being shot left, right, and center during the day. It is a lawlessness that is taking place in Marikana in Loan Min. And cases are being opened, but they are not going anywhere, okay? Now, we are saying it is too much. Yeah. And on relation to Marikana, We have not been talking about the 10 workers that were murdered before the 16th of August. It has always been about the 34. But when we count, we acknowledge that it is 44, but we don't talk about the 10. Why are we not talking about the widows that came before the 16th of August? Kids that lost their fathers before the 16th of August. Those that continue to be murdered now. We're not talking about them. I said, let's go back to Marikana, all of us. Let's really probe the issues that are taking place there. Safety of workers, it is a serious issue. Thirdly, we're saying AMCU as a trade union was not supposed to have been even operating. The registrar have said this union has never gone to its Congress. It has not conformed to its constitution, okay? But it continues to exist. Matunjwa continues to be given interviews, recognized. We want to hear his voice, but the union is not legitimate. It does not conform to the registrar, what it's supposed to be conforming with. So what exactly are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with a legitimate union, or are we dealing with a gangster paradise that is taking place in Lonmin? The reality is workers are dying in Lonmin.
So this is why you need this investigation again. So it's almost for what happened 7 years ago and what's happening now.
Yes.
Just finally, I have to just ask you again, because I know it was a long-winded question, but the president, he hasn't been. You're asking as a CEC for him to go. Why has he not been? I mean, he almost feels like he was the center of it at one stage. He hasn't been. The workers are very angry. So let's talk to that.
Workers in Marikana have told us that they want the president to come because the community of Marikana is ready to meet with the president.
Is he willing to go, the president? Have you asked him?
He has always been willing to go. You will remember even during the elections, he had planned to go to Marikana, but his own people, I guess, when they went there and made assessment and came back to him and said, not now. But when we are interacting with the communities in Marikana through our own membership there, we are told that even community in Marikana, workers in Marikana are ready. They want the president to come. They want to speak to the president. They want to engage with the African National Congress. This thing that Marikana is a no-go area, it does not exist. Can we have law and order in Marikana? There can never be a place in South Africa that is a no-go area. It is true intimidation that even the people in the office of the president would then make an assessment and say probably there are threats and all of that. We must stabilize it. We must put law and order in Marikana because there are victims there, women, children, men, who are witnesses of people being murdered every day. What are we going to do? Because their psychological standing has been affected. The life of those kids has changed to some of them. Are we paying attention to that? Or we're saying we don't want to be accused of wanting to manage AMCU politics and all of that, and therefore it is going to be a place that AMCU runs amok, and they can do as they wish during the day. Police, we're not even sure whether those police can, some of them, be trusted, not all of them, but we're saying cases are not going anywhere. Law and order must be restored in Marikana.
We leave it there for this morning. Cosatu President Zingiswa Losi shedding some light on issues discussed at Cosatu's 3-day Central Executive Committee meeting, as well as other issues. I'm sorry we didn't get to NHI, but we'll invite you again to talk about that. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you, Leah.
All right, we have to take a break. We've got the Statistician General standing by.